And next up is going to be Lori Tsugawa Whaley. She's making herself ready there, and I'm going to be the one to introduce her. And love that Lori's remained a member. She's a founding member of the We Empower You community, and she's going to be talking about Gambaru. Lori is a third-generation Japanese-American baby boomer and a descendant of the samurai warrior. Marriage, family, and life kept her occupied until 1982, when Lori and her husband both went and journeyed to Japan, and that's when her life completely changed. The heritage that she had once scorned became her newfound focus. She is very passionate now about her Japanese culture. And in 2005 and 2007, Lori was rear-ended, suffering traumatic brain injury that left her reading at a 7th grade reading level. But determined as she was to overcome her circumstances, she set out a goal to write a book for her recovery. And the new edition of her book, Let the Samurai Be Your Guide, launched in 2020. And she was releasing that by Tuttle Publishing. And now I hear it's also in German. Welcome to the stage, Lori. It is so wonderful to have you as a member and also as on our stage here today.
Thank you, Bettina. I'd like you all to unmute and let's see, just to say happy birthday to Bettina. This is a special day, so you can all unmute and keep it on mute for just a moment. So if you can all unmute and say happy, 1, 2, 3, say happy birthday, Bettina. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Bettina.
Bettina. Happy birthday. Happy to be here with you.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for sharing your day.
Let's see, how do you do this thing? Love you, one and all.
Great, and please keep it off for just a moment. What I'd like to do is teach you 2 words in Japanese, and the first one is konnichiwa, and you can kind of bow, and it's just the everyday greeting. So if you meet somebody Japanese, you can just say konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Let's all say that together. It's very easy.
Konnichiwa.
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 Thank you. Thank you very much for all your participation. I appreciate that. I love languages, and I'm trying to learn as many greetings as I can. I know quite a few right now, but there's more to learn. Did you know that only 8% of the people actually reach their goals? Would you like to be part of that 8% that actually reach your goal? But if you do, you're going to need something more than what most people do, and you're going to want to listen closely. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1982, devastating Southwest Washington and beyond. I'd like to show a hand, so you can put in the chat. How many of you were here or remember that day? It was something. Some people have. Did any of you actually feel it, the earth shake? Were you in Southwest Washington?
I did. I believe that was in 1980.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It was in 1980. I heard Bettina say 1982. Okay, that's when we went to Japan. 1980.
My house
yes.
shook.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I knew there was somebody bright out there.
I definitely heard it. I definitely heard it. I was in the Tahuya forest at a 4-H camp thing.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely heard it.
Yes, and I was actually on the road, and I didn't feel it, but I saw it. But thank you. And as Bettina mentioned, I am a traumatic brain survivor, and I'm working through reading at a 7th grade level, and my book was my goal. So after Mount St. Helens erupted, it was right during this period of time when my mother and father purchased a dilapidated nursery with rundown buildings, and the business was defunct. And arising out of ashes just were all over the place. And I'll read to you the devastation, because you can just say, well, Mount St. Helens erupted, but it was quite devastating. 150,000 acres devastated, 57 lives lost, 250 homes destroyed, 47 bridges in need of repair, 15 miles of railway destroyed, 185 miles of highway ruined, millions of trees strewn out like matchsticks, 7,000 big game animals, as well as thousands of birds and fish dead. So it was quite devastating. And they say it was the most devastating volcano eruption in the United States. So here, ashes were all, if you remember, ashes were all over the place. They went over to Eastern Washington. And amidst that pile of ashes, my mother declared, I am going to start this nursery. And my dad says, you don't know anything about business. And my mom says, well, you know, I don't care. I am going to run this business. So with that samurai determination, she went forward. Now, to give you a bit of background about my mother, she grew up in the city, pretty much in the city, and didn't know much about farming or how to raise plants. So when we arrived, we moved from Portland, Oregon to Woodland, Washington. And at that time, it was like this Japanese families coming from the city. And they thought my mother was the girl from the city because she bought corn seeds and all these seeds. And she took them back and she goes, these seeds are dry. I can't do anything with them. And they thought that was quite a joke because mom didn't understand that that's what seeds are. So anyway, she determined that she was going to run the nursery. She tirelessly canvassed Southwest Washington and the Portland area to find the best plants for the nursery. So she did this almost single-handedly. So about a year later, that nursery opened, and it's still open today. And she thought all she had to do was go down there and look pretty. And
Hey, Bridget, it's
oh.
Lee. Do I have any mail?
I'm sorry.
Not that I'm aware of.
We can all unmute now.
Drop off my orange.
I hear a little bit of noise.
Okay.
Anyway, she
she
started the nursery and she thought all I have to do was
Okay.
go down there and look pretty.
I don't think I did.
And
Let me do that for you.
Would you do that for me today? Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Could you unmute?
problem. You have
Could you
a good
mute
one.
everyone,
You too.
please? Okay.
Right.
She thought all she had to do was look pretty. So the first week, the only thing she sold on about the second or third day was one geranium. Not two, not three, but one geranium. So she felt like quitting. But she knew her samurai honor was at stake. So she didn't. She had to go forward. And every day she worked tirelessly, and there aren't many people that I've ever met that can outwork my mother. She can work circles around anybody. And she probably invented multitasking. There's a Japanese, so she continued. And 40 years later, the nursery is still in business. They employ 40 people during peak time, and they occupy about 7 acres. And they also have a greenhouse down at my father's farm. And so it's still alive, and mother's legend still lives on. But unfortunately, mother passed away, and she was mostly a big part of the inspiration for my book. So in my book, this is my book, I included her in Ganbaru, even though it is not a samurai principle, the Kodo Bushido, it is a principle that the samurais live by. They never gave up. It didn't matter if they were going to go to battle with fewer men, fewer artillery or weapons. They went to battle because their honor was at stake. It would be better to die that honorable death than to go back and, shall we say, retreat. But her thing, what she said, when I read her the book, or read her my story that was going to go in the book, she goes, is that really me? She was so modest. And she said, courage and family have kept me going. I have enjoyed the nursery, and I've come a long ways from the dehydrated corn seeds. My advice to everyone is to never give up and to believe that anything is possible. So that's my mother's words, and she never let us give up on anything. I tried to run away from the school nurse who was going to give me the shot because I was definitely afraid of shots, and she didn't believe my lie, and because I literally ran down the hall from them when my time was coming up. So I had to face my fears of doctors when I went through traumatic brain injury. So life, as we've all heard, life happens. And sometimes we can become bitter, or we can become better. And I choose to become better. So that is the nursery. And every year, my mother set such an example. She would buy property, and she would improve every year. Like after a few years, all the cars from the traffic, or all of her customers, were blocking the road, and they were parking on the sides of the street, which didn't even have sidewalks. And so she purchased a property next door, made it into a parking lot. And then the building, well, not building, the home and the pool came available for sale. She purchased that, and that's now their office, and they turned the pool into a koi pond. So mom was always thinking, she's led such an example for me, and I owe so much to my mother. And if you have a mother, I hope you can really appreciate her, because my mom left about 10 years ago, and my dad just passed away. So I had my parents into my 60s, because my dad just passed away almost at 100. So that is the nursery. And how it affected me was I just watched her, and we worked alongside our parents growing up, and we never gave up. If it rained outside, we knew we had to, and all the pickers were gone, we knew we had to go out there, pick the berries, because if we didn't pick them, they would rot. And my dad would say, well, what are we going to eat in the winter? So we went out, and we never gave up. So at a very young age, I put the correlation between the two. Work, persistence equals money. And that's been how I've lived. But she was, if anybody, if you have your mom, I go home or call her or give her a card, give her a hug, give her a kiss. And if you don't have a great relationship with her, I would encourage you to patch things up, and I just, before she passed away, she says, Laura, you have nothing to regret. She said, you were great. And I said, it was because of you, Mom. So to all our moms. Anyway, that was my mother, and she was the inspiration for the book. So I hope you can, I'll put in the chat the book, because it was originally published it self-publishing, and then Tuttle Publishing offered me a contract, which I took, or I signed. And that's for someone who just wrote a book as a goal to overcome traumatic injury. It has brought about a lot of other blessings. So I'm very thankful for that, because everything we do just keeps adding up. It's like almost like this. We get to tally, oh, you made a phone call, you didn't take that rejection personally, or everything like that. It all adds up, because everything we do matters, and everything we think, because it starts here, as we all know, it starts here in the brain, and it goes down to actions. And I personally know that, because I worked with women in the prison, and I would say to them, not in a demeaning way, but what you thought about, you did, and what you did is what you brought you here. So if we want different actions, we want different results, we start thinking about our actions and our thoughts. Well, I got a little bit off track, but I just felt that was really important. So if you want to be if you want to be part of that elite 8%, and you want to learn the samurai and the strategies that the samurai bring about, you're going to want to listen. And I have a complimentary coaching session or strategy session that is going to be put in the chat, that I would love to connect with any of you. I started a coaching program, and I'm going to start another one in October, hopefully ending up in Japan, because I had a tour all planned out for 2020. It didn't happen, but I believe in 23 probably will happen then, because Japan's been one of the slowest countries to open up. So in all of that about Ganbaru, try your hardest, never give up, do your best, and go for broke. Those are the principles of Ganbaru. And it's much more than that. It's not just saying, I have a goal and I'm going to do it. You've got to know your why. You have to buy into it. You have to own it. Just like all of you, you're all owning your business. And hopefully that you say, oh, well, there's so much competition. Well, be different. Like me, how many people have you met, a farmer's daughter becoming a speaker, speaking about the samurai? So that's very unusual, but I actually am a descendant of the samurai warrior. But whether or not you are, you can still live by and benefit from the principles of the samurai warrior. So I would like to leave you with this. Remember that when you have a goal, you think you have a goal, like we heard some people talk about, or Rita talk about money, and Rita and also Mia, if you have a goal about money, you have a solution here. If you want weight, if you want to become healthy, there are health coaches here. So never think about, oh, I can't do it. Well, you don't have to do it alone. That's it's like yin and yang, and that's Chinese, that's not Japanese, but it's yin and yang. And also by standing firm, that's number 2, standing firm, knowing your why, you'll access power that you didn't even realize you had, just like me with my traumatic brain injury. And 3, whatever you do it like your life depended on it. When I was faced with traumatic injury, I could have been, like most people, my speech pathologist said most people give up. I couldn't give up. I didn't want to be reading at a 7th grade level. I didn't want my husband to be taking care of me for the rest of my life. And I was in my 50s then. I did not want that. And I didn't at that time, but I knew I was going to have grandchildren. I didn't want to be the grandma that they had to take care of. I wanted to have fun and enjoy them. And we are now. So I'm very blessed. And so when you do that, you could accomplish anything. You put that before you in any way that you want. There's so many different ways. There's mind mapping, there's affirmations, there's confirmations, and there's coaching. And I would love to be your guide with you on your samurai journey. So if you're committed to living your life purposefully, and you want the strength, courage, and honor of the samurai warrior to help you with your life, let's talk. I'm very approachable. I chose not to have slides because sometimes I just feel I feel disconnected. I don't know about you, but we've been in this virtual world about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And I would love to connect with people. And it's so wonderful to be out. You just feel so much alive when you can hug and talk and touch and connect with people. And I'm going to do that next week in San Diego. I'm very excited. So I'd love for you to connect with me. And also I'd love to tell you, and I'm going to be having webinars about my coaching program, which will start in October. And as part of just want to say, this was the journal that we produced for the coaching course, and it's going to also be within the year-long coaching program. And I know that if you ask anybody, do you have a code of honor that you live by, or a code of ethics that you live by? And most people would say, well, yeah, well, then let's talk and let's get a code of honor that you can say, even if it's one. So this is where I stand. I put my stake in the ground. These are my boundaries. I will not go past that, because the world is looking for leaders. They're looking for you, and they're waiting for us to show them the way, because they may have lost their way. They may not know how to find their way, or they may be afraid. So we can share with them and give them hope, courage, and the determination to see life and to help them live their best, most purposeful life. So what I'd like to end with is that word gambaru is what the Japanese live by. And it's what brought them through the earthquake and tsunami in Kobe, and then also in northern Japan. They didn't loot, they didn't steal. They returned over $78 million were returned within the first 6 months to the rightful owners. So if you can imagine living in a world like that, and that's why I share about Japan and the Japanese principles, taking something that I hated, I detested, I wanted nothing to do with it because I faced racial prejudice. I didn't want anything to do with it. But then I come full circle, and that's who God made me. He made me a Japanese samurai warrior. And I would love to help you and share with you about that journey. And also I'm going to put in the chat about joining my samurai community, because it's really growing. It's becoming fascinating. And thanks to Bettina, I started that group a couple of years ago, and it's growing a lot now. And people are contributing. They're finding out that, oh yes, those principles are great. So I'll put in the chat about the strategy session and also about how to join the samurai community. And I really would love to have a conversation with any of you, all of you, because I believe that we can learn from each other. So my parting words is gambaru, and you can all stand up. I can't stand up because it's called, you can say it right now, it's gambate is the imperative. So you can say gambate, and the count of 3, I want you to unmute, stand up, and say, well, I'll stand up and say gambate. Can you say that? Gambate.
Gambate.
Okay, let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
Gambate.
Say it like you mean it. Like that was about a 3.
Gambate.
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 Bettina, let's do it again.
Gambate.
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 Mate.
Gambate.
Thank you. Owari, that means the end. And I hope I didn't go over too long.
That was perfect. Thank you so much, Lori.